Welcome to the Today in History channel. In today's video we will talk about the day. December 14, 1911. Amundsen arrives at the South Pole. The South Pole was one of the last places on Earth that man was able to reach. The expedition's heroes were Roald Amundsen, with his team comprised of Olav Bjelland, Helmer Hansen, Sverre Hassel, Oscar Wisting, Jorgen Stubberud, Hjalmar Johansson and Christian Priestrud. The Norwegian Amundsen and the British Robert Falcon Scott randomly undertook a competition to see who was the first man to conquer the South Pole. Scott and his expedition also managed to get there, but 34 days later, and with a tragic ending. After Frederick Cook arrived at the North Pole, Amundsen, who had participated in several expeditions to the Arctic, observed the media repercussions of Cook's feat and wanted to become the first man to reach the southernmost place on Earth. Between 1907 and 1909, Ernest Shackleton had already undertaken the first major expedition to the geographic South Pole, reaching 180 kilometers from that point. Amundsen and Scott began their preparations in 1909, a task that lasted until the beginning of 1911, when both managed to install their bases around Ross Ice Shelf. Amundsen chose the coast next to the Bay of Whales as a starting point, where he installed his Framheim base. Scott chose the opposite side of the Ross Ice Shelf, next to the McMurdo Strait. This determined the path to follow and placed Scott almost 100 kilometers farther from the South Pole, which influenced the failure of his mission. The choice of aid animals and supplies was also decisive. In his two expeditions, Shackleton had used dogs adapted to the extreme climate, a major failure, and Mongolian horses with better results, which led Scott to choose horses as his main support animal. Amundsen was a great dog sled driver and, to prevent the food load from limiting the expedition, he used the dead bodies of dogs killed by exhaustion or directly executed as food for the rest of the pack. Amundsen conquered the South Pole on December 14, 1911, leaving a Norwegian flag and a tent there, in which he left two letters, one addressed to Haakon VII, King of Norway, and the other addressed to Scott. 94 days after starting the expedition, 56 days outward and 38 days back, Amundsen and his team arrived back at the Bay of Whales, having covered 2,824 kilometers. Only 11 dogs of the 52 who started the expedition returned alive. In March 1912, when the team arrived in Hobart, Australia, news of the South Pole's conquest spread around the world. Until then, it was still unknown how lucky Scott's expedition had been. The bodies of Scott, Edward Wilson and Henry Bowers were found in November 1912 in a tent, during a search expedition, just 600 kilometers before successfully completing the expedition. Scott was unlucky, but he also made bad decisions. 3 of his companions turned around when it was about 500 kilometers to reach the South Pole, having spent more provisions than was strictly necessary, and he had no determination to kill horses and feed them, just like Lawrence Oates. He proposed to him, not even to abandon Evans and Oates when they were already very weak, which slowed the expedition excessively, so Scott, Wilson and Bowers had to face very extreme temperatures, which prevented them from finishing the mission alive. If you like the video of a force subscribing to the channel, like, comment and share. To receive new videos, see you next time.